Today, I got someone really special on the show. This is a guy who's lived and breathed fitness for the past 3 decades. He started out like so many of us do. At the age of 16, he was wiping down pieces of equipment, and by 18, he became the youngest certified exercise specialist in the country. But he didn't stop there. He trained athletes, celebrities, owned gyms, ran major health club operations, and he's consulted around the world. And now he's known as the health club doctor, the guy gym owners call when they feel like their club is flatlining and they need someone to come back in and bring it back to life. And here's the kicker. He was just named as the #1 person to follow by MSN as the top 10 keynote speakers to follow in 2025. Out of everyone in the industry, they named him as the #1 spot on that list. How do you vet that the partnership is going to be good so it doesn't either dry up or become a war?
What we're talking about right now is business and our financial futures and the financial stability of this particular entity. It's not that I hate you or coming at you or whatever conversation we actually have today is about business. Our personal life is separate. Our personal relationship is separate than that. And it's hard to do that. Now, I might come at you and say, now, Michael, look, I'm looking at the numbers here and, you're not hitting XYZ, or, hey, operationally, you're not pulling your weight, dude. But you better come with fact and not feeling. Proof is in the pudding. Like, keep it all about business. Hey, Michael, we really missed our targets the last 6 months. What the heck is going on? You're taking every Friday off. You're playing golf. Like, you better have fact when you come to those meetings. And remember, everything needs to be in writing. I don't care if you're best buds since the time you were blood brothers, you spit, you shook, you pinky sweared, in writing. This is the agreement. These are the roles. These are the expectations. It is a business. And I think early on, a lot of people missed that. And I did too.
Jarrod Saracco is someone who just doesn't talk theory. He's been through the grind. He's made the mistakes. He's learned the lessons. Now he spends his time working with gym owners to avoid landmines that could destroy their business. So whether you're struggling to figure out whether or not you need to keep your gym open, trying to figure out how you can take your gym to the next level, you're about to hear from one of the most respected individuals in the entire industry. Let's get into it with the health club doctor himself, Jarrod Saracco. All right, Jarrod, appreciate you being on the show today, man. Been a long time coming. I think we had this scheduled and then we had to re-coordinate schedules and we're finally back at it.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to jump right into it. You've been in the game longer than me, I think. And you started at 16, working at gyms, wiping down equipment. And then you got into this position where you were an exercise specialist, right? By the age of 18, I think the youngest. Medical
exercise, yeah.
Yeah, the youngest. I don't know if you still hold that title. You got to get that in the Guinness Book of World Records.
As far as I know, I still hold that record. Yes, for that particular designation. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were the youngest in the country. But there was something that drove you back then. I mean, I have my own personal story, why I got into this field and why I still do what I'm doing today.
Sure.
But what is it that's still kind of driving you? Because I mean, that's for a lot of people, they switch career paths like many, many times over during their lifetime. So what was it that drove you back then that still maybe is part of that driving force, or maybe it's changed?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to start this conversation for sure. I mean, back then in the early days, I was really excited about personal training and just helping people, right? And started that career early, got into personal training, that medical exercise specialist certification. That's a whole nother topic we can talk about and how I got there. But there is still a driving force today. It was always about helping people. I always knew I wanted to do something that made a difference in people's lives. And for me, as I got, through sports and exercise and fitness and all that, I realized, that's the greatest way to help people in the world, right? I mean, people get in to be medicine and doctors and lawyers and all this kind of stuff, but to get up every day and put on a pair of cross trainers or sneakers or whatever you want to call them from back in the day and go to work and change people's lives through exercise was really cool. And I knew I could have a really positive impact in that way. Today, even though I'm not working with clients in a particular training demographic, I'm still helping people. I'm teaching people now the business of fitness and how to be successful and how to service those people better than ever before. And so to answer your question, the driving force is still the same. Helping people be the best version of themselves, whether it's through physical fitness or teaching professionals how to be the best version of themselves to help others reach their pinnacle of physical fitness and health. So the driving factor is being able to help people.
Was there something, I mean, because you coach other gym owners, and when I'm coaching gym owners and working with their sales staff, we always talk about peeling the layers of the onion back. So I'm going to do that with you a little bit.
Sure.
Right. So that's great. Right. I think that's kind of like the tip of the spear type of thought process. But even for me, like the thing that really got me was my grandfather passing away. And I would say that was the coal that kind of started lighting the fire inside me.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to be a physician. And then going down that path, as I gained more knowledge and went to school, I learned some new things and realized that things are preventable. And there was no need to be all the way at the other end of the spectrum waiting until I had the opportunity to give somebody a prescription or put somebody on a table and try and, dissect them and fix whatever inside is wrong with them. What was it for you? Like, what was that coal that, what was the ember that kind of started things that really lit it up?
Yeah. Interesting. And obviously sorry to hear about your grandfather, but it served as a spark for you, right? I've got great stories about my grandfather actually, but he passed a little later on in life. But for me, very in a similar way, playing sports and growing up, I was pretty fortunate to avoid major injuries with things. I would see a chiropractor here or there. I was kind of always enamored by that and how I felt, doing that and whatnot. But as I got through fitness and I was starting to learn more about it, I was always kind of intrigued by physical therapy because back in the 90s, I hate saying it's 30 something.
Back in the 1900s.
It's like crazy.
Yeah.
It's like back in the 1800s. But I thought, okay, physical therapy. And that's, as I got older, I started to learn a little bit more about how health insurance worked and this and that. And as I started to explore that, it was like, hey, first of all, I hated school. Let's be honest. I hated school other than gym, lunch. And when I started going for the
recess and
wellness. Yeah. And I was like, I hated being there. So to the thought of me going another 4 or 6 years into college and doing all this, I'm like, oh no. But more than that, I started to learn that physical therapy was dictated by insurance, right? And hey, Jarrod, if you came to us with a rotator cuff tear on your right-hand side and, my patient was in there and they came into the clinic, I couldn't touch their left shoulder, even though they were having the same pain and problem on the left side. I would have to send them back. They would have to get approved. They'd have to have a prescription and all this. I hated that. I absolutely hated that. I'm like, screw this. I really wanted to get into healthcare. I learned at an early age that, being a physician, doctor, and no offense, I mean, at that point, it's sick care, right? It's already kind of too late in the game. So what could I do from a preventative standpoint to help people be the best version of themselves? That's when I got into fitness and training. I always loved working out. I always liked playing sports. And I'm like, man, I could make this a career. And then I realized, to your point about the medical exercise specialist thing, that I could bridge that gap with my fitness certification and that medical exercise one. And that was one of the coolest things I ever did, because now I'm doing prehab, post-rehab. I'm working with doctors, chiros, physical therapists. I was being paid to do therapeutic exercise. I really understood what was going on. Now, that doesn't mean I was a doctor. It doesn't mean I was a physical therapist. But I was bridging the gap between the two industries that I really wanted to be a part of, and it was awesome. So, much like you, it started with some sort of little goal of being at a higher level. You want to be a physician. I want to be a physical therapist. But realizing that was more the end, not the beginning. And if I could be part of the beginning, maybe we could avoid some more of the end goal, or some of these people and help them along the way.
Yeah, I find it interesting always that you go into hospitals and there's, nurses outside smoking, doctors outside smoking. And you get into this position where you start questioning what's the healthcare really, what's the value there if that's what other people are aspiring to be like, and hopefully they're not. But shifting gears here a little bit, looking back also, I mean, as you were going through that process, 16, you're working at gyms, 18, you're getting things kind of worked through and identifying that you can be an exercise specialist. Then you start training and you're working with clients. You work with Patty LaBelle and Larry Boa and, a lot of other like major names.
Well, look, I want to go back to something before we get to that. You mentioned something about the doctors being out of shape, right? That was a big problem for me. Being a hypocrite was a big problem. It's still a big problem for me, right? Like this guy, most doctors at that time, they're either slightly overweight or majorly overweight. They're smoking, like you said, or drinking. Hey, you need to walk. Okay, do you? Like I just saw you outside, to your point, smoking. Like have you ever walked a lap in your life? Like I don't know. I used to get treated for exercise-induced asthma, and the doctor's telling me that I got to do certain things, and I'm looking at him like, really? So to your point, that used to bother me a lot. So that, really just carried over. As far as training goes, yeah, man, I mean, I've had the greatest experience meeting people. I think that's one of the things that people underestimate about the fitness industry is you meet a lot of people. And I've had great experiences from training, just great individual, we would call them average Joes, right? Unfortunately, we kind of label them that way, to celebrities and athletes. And, having the opportunity to train Patty was awesome. I mean, during that time, I mean, she was, not to air her dirty laundry. I mean, she didn't have any dirty laundry. I mean, she wrote a book about it. She had severe diabetes. She was very diabetic. And one of the reasons I was able to work with her because of that medical exercise specialist certification, I had learning that and doing it. And she was a cool customer, man. We played basketball at the end of every session, like all kinds of things. And crazy story training her. But Larry Bow was just a cool guy. And he, Philadelphia icon. And I think one of the things that he appreciated about training with me at the time was I didn't talk to him about baseball. If he wanted to talk about it, great. Sure, we'll bring it up. But I think they respected the fact that I didn't treat them like a celebrity. Yeah. I treated them like a client and a person and a human being. And we became friends in that matter. And some great relationships out of it. I've had clients take me on vacations and train while they were there and put me up in houses and come to my wedding at the one point and give me gift. I mean, training's taken me a lot of cool places.
I think that's the thing that a lot of trainers maybe overlook, or people in our industry overlook, is the fact that you create those relationships with a lot of those people. And even in circumstances like that, even though you are a coach, which a lot of times just in that scenario, coaches are there really just to make sure that they're fulfilling their plan that they wanted to execute. Because that's really a lot of times what we play, is that you get to have those relationships. You end up, they bring stuff for holidays and they give you things that you probably shouldn't eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But those are things that I think elevate you to the next level, because if you didn't have those opportunities, then you wouldn't have met the people that you could surround yourself with that may have put you in a different position to go to the next stage. And if you put yourself in a position to be a great trainer, to be able to work with, some of the bigger names, then you put yourself in a position to be able to level up. Do you feel like that was something that maybe happened for you? Like you focused on, being really caring and making sure that you were a great trainer so you could get to that level, or was it just kind of out of luck?
No, listen, they call it personal training for a reason. It's a very intimate relationship. When you first start a client relationship, you're asking them some pretty deep questions, right? About their lifestyle, their habits, their medical history, certain things. I mean, nowadays it's even changed, right? With HIPAA requirements and things like that.
Yeah.
But in a way, you become their therapist. They vent to you. You're a therapist, a hair salon, a barber, right? They kind of vent, like that's their session. But with you might go there once a month or once every couple of weeks or whatever. But with a trainer, they're seeing you 2, 3, 4 times a week. And you get to know them inside and out, their kid's name, they call me Uncle Jarrod, whatever the case is, right? You really get to know them on a deeper level. Look, if you've got bad people skills and you don't have the ability to connect with an individual on a deeper level, don't do this job. Now, you got to understand the line that shouldn't be crossed. You got to understand when, too personal is too personal. And I always tell people, man, I'm going to write a great book when I'm done and retired about all the things that, and I would joke around with them. I'm like, that's going in the book, about that. But it does take a certain skill set from a personality standpoint, because people need to feel comfortable with you. I mean, look, they're putting their health and their lives in a certain way in your hands every single time they come in to train you. And they're also putting a lot of trust in you. So to me, building that relationship was always number one. And it still is today. And I'll do anything I can to protect reputation and relationships. And, to your point, to go back to some of the celebrity clients, to protect their integrity, right? They could trust me not to talk about things that they told me or air their business. Like, oh, you should have seen, that wasn't who I was, and it's not who I am today, right? So having that confidential nature to me was always a help as well. And so that just naturally led to referrals, and reputation was everything. So I don't think I've ever really advertised a day of my life unless I was given an opportunity to put something somewhere, you know what I mean? It's always been referrals from the time I was a personal trainer to now. It's word of mouth and reputation that do it all. And I'll take that to my grave all day long.
So I've got a couple things I want to hit on there, because I recognize something you're saying about personality traits. And one of the things that I've worked with other coaches on is when they're hiring, right? Because they got to get to a point where they can kind of step away from the business. And I got some questions on that. But when they're hiring people, a lot of times they hire just based on certifications or things that they've done in the industry, like, experience and exposure. But a lot of times they don't hire on personality. And I think that's a big miss. Simply because if you're not hiring on personality, to your point, if they don't have, that emotional quotient, the EQ, to identify like, maybe I shouldn't be talking about this stuff, or, maybe I need to have these specific soft skills to be able to have conversations with people. How do you teach that? Right. So you go into gyms, you help gyms get better. Is that a teachable thing? Can you sit down with the coach and say, hey, listen, this, the way that you're presenting information or the way that you're communicating is broken. So a lot of times people are just wired that way. So it's almost like you got to re-coach and rewire the person to think differently, to become almost a different human, right? Because they don't have those personality traits to be able to have conversations. So how do you take care of that? Number one, hire for those things or train for those things. And two, how do you go into a gym that has, maybe that's like one of the big problems is just the personalities. How do you go in there and either fix it or, cut it out and make sure that things don't get shaky? Yeah,
great question. I mean, to your point, I've always wanted to hire personality over paper. Personality over paper every day. You don't need a degree, right? And I know I'm going to make some people mad saying that, but the truth of the matter is, you don't need a degree. You don't need to go to college. I didn't go to college, and 30 years later, I have an amazing career. That doesn't mean that I'm against it. It doesn't mean that I'm by any means. So
some people need it because they don't have the internal drivers.
Watching, don't come at me in the comments about, I'm not hating on college or university or whatever. But I
some people, they need structure, Jarrod. I mean, like that, that's right. And that's why they go. And 100%. And other people, they've got that wired in them already. They can just go execute.
But the thing that you can't teach is personality, to your point. And is somebody a people person? Do they have those soft skills to be able to come in and connect with someone? Can you put somebody in a room full of 100 strangers, and can they walk out of there with a few friends by the end of the night? That's people are scared to death to do that. You can't teach that great smile. You can't teach that beaming, vibrant personality. I don't care if the person's got 85 certifications, 3 degrees, and, has been around the world. Can you connect with me right away? What are your communication skills? You have a great smile. To me, that's more important. I can teach you physiology, kinesiology. I can teach you biomechanics. I can teach you how to spot and train and do program design. I can teach you those things. I can't teach you that inborn sense of connecting with people. Now, Can I teach you to ask great questions and communicate great questions? Sure. Can I teach you to get to the root of a problem? Can we work on your skill set as far as how you communicate during an assessment or a session? Sure. Can I tell you, hey, Michael, try and smile more, right? And then you got that Joker smile going on, like, and it doesn't look really natural or anything. People with the natural ability to calm people and connect with people will always, in my book, be a lot more successful, because that's what it is. It's a human to human business. And yes, you can impress people with your knowledge and your smarts and all that kind of stuff, but being able to make somebody comfortable with you is a great skill set that sometimes is very difficult to teach. And when I do go into places, I can see it right away. Who greets you at the door, who's doing the number one sessions. I've been in clubs where the number one trainer, they are absolutely horrible at training. Like, when you look at them from a technical standpoint, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing that. Like, that's another thing we got to talk about, right? And teach later on. But I'd rather be able to teach that. But the ability of that same individual to have their tribe of people who will live or die for them, that absolutely love them, will follow them anywhere, that's a skill set you can't really teach a lot of people. So I'd rather go in and fix those technical skills and the personality skills, and that can be difficult. But when I'm hiring somebody, the first thing I'm looking for is that personality and ability to connect. Everything else can work around it.
So you had some gyms when you were in your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
You owned some gyms. So tell me about that. I look back at the gyms that I owned, and hindsight's always 20/20, right? I look back and I go, man, only if I did these things, right? I would have exited for X more. If I had done this stuff with my training business, I would have had this kind of multiple. And they don't hit you until long enough down the road, when you've had enough experience and you've stepped in enough shit to go, all right, good to know. Shouldn't take that road. What is it that you've identified? Like, now that you've been in the game this long, you can look back. What would you have done differently to avoid maybe some of those financial missteps within your own businesses?
Look, there's no secret. My time as an owner was great, but it was ugly to a degree too, because I was very, very young at the time, which was a great opportunity, and being able to have my own clubs at that time was awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I learned a lot about business that way, and a lot about partnerships and legal documents and loans. If I didn't have that experience, I really wouldn't be doing what I am doing today, because every single day I actually lean on that experience to help me help others avoid those same mistakes. I had a partner that really screwed me over pretty bad, and looking back on a lot of those things, I was young, I was naive, and I was really good at training, and excited about being in the business, and, had all these accolades and people behind me, and, learned a lot about banking at the time, and finance, and promises made and promises kept, and, all that type of stuff. And, obviously I would do things differently again. If I had,
pick one, like what would be one of, like, the biggest needle movers that you would have changed back then?
Probably, first of all, a different partnership. Probably a different partnership.
How do you recognize that? I think that's a thing that a lot of owners, they get into, because when you're working towards having your own business, you get into positions where financially you'd need more money, or you need something more to leverage. So you get into a partnership, and a lot of times you just kind of like do it with your best bud or somebody that you've trained with, or, whatever the case may be. How do you vet that the partnership is going to be good, so it doesn't either dry up or become a war?
You have to understand what that relationship is. A lot of trainers will get a client, and they've made friends with a client, and the client's backing them. Oh yeah, go open your own place. We'll give you money. They don't realize that relationship changes, right? Changes everything. You're not friends anymore. You're partners. And if they're bringing in the money and you're bringing in the experience, you have a different obligation now. That relationship changes. I think one of the big things, and pardon the expression, I call it being horny for the deal, right? You get excited about an opportunity and nothing is going to keep you from doing it. You are blinded to everything else that's out there because you want that deal so bad that all the red flags that are actually there,
that everybody else sees.
Yeah, everybody else sees them. You don't care because you're like, no, this is awesome. This is it. And when you get horny for a deal, you can't think straight and you make a bad deal. And I see that still every day today, especially with leases and spaces, and you get excited about a spot and it's like, whoa,
so how do you navigate it? How do you navigate that? I mean, because you're, to your point, like you're in the moment. I mean, you're using an analogy. I mean, I'm looking back at my days, right, chasing tail, and it's like, I had plenty of people saying, "Don't, no." Yeah. Same red thing flag. In business, right? I had friends and family members saying, "Hey, like, maybe you want to think about this a little bit longer," and you just go.
Yep.
So how do you have that control, or how do you train to have control? Like, what steps can you take to really self-analyze the situation to go, all right, this is what I need to do? And if you're in a position already where you do have a partner, what things do they need to lay out so that way they don't get into this broken marriage, right? And they get divorced and it's just an ugly nightmare.
Yeah. Great question.
What would you recommend on those?
First thing is take emotion out of everything. You have to take emotion out of everything. This is a business deal, right? I don't care how excited you are about your spot or this piece of property or this space or this opportunity. We're human. We get excited. When we get excited, we don't think straight. We just, it's a great feeling as a human being, but it can be very detrimental. So
can we role play that? Can you imagine we're business partners, right? Yep. You come to me and we're already in business, and whether there's bad blood or good blood or whatever going on, how do you role play that with me? So that way people listening, they have some context on how they can frame this. Right. So they can have like a healthy conversation about this.
So it's kind of like, Michael, listen, I know we're friends and we've been partners together for a long time, but what we're talking about right now is business and our financial futures and the financial stability of this particular entity. So, it's not that I hate you or coming at you or whatever conversation we actually have today is about business. Our personal life is separate. Our personal relationship is separate than that. And it's hard to do that, right? Because you get your back up about things, especially when it's your friend or your buddy or whatever. Now, I might come at you and say, now, Michael, look, I'm looking at the numbers here and, you're not hitting XYZ, or, hey, operationally, you're not pulling your weight, dude. Like, you got to do it. But you better come with fact and not feeling. Well, I feel like you don't do that. No. Show me, proof is in the pudding. Like, keep it all about business. Hey, Michael, we really missed our targets the last 6 months. What the heck is going on? Look, it's no dream that you haven't been coming to work, or you're taking every Friday off. You're playing golf. Like, you better have fact when you come to those meetings. And remember, everything needs to be in writing. I don't care if you're best buds since the time you were blood brothers, you spit, you shook, you pinky sweared, you made some pact in a treehouse somewhere in 1987 that, whatever happens or whatever. In writing, this is the agreement. These are the roles. These are the expectations. And you go get it. Now, sometimes it requires making sure you have a third party, right? Do you have a third party mediator? Do you each have attorneys to represent you in there? It doesn't mean that you aren't friends. It is a business. And I think early on, a lot of people missed that. And I did too, and it's not that I have a bad relationship. We had 3 partners. The first partner was great. The third one we brought in was the one that really caused the issue. And I really wish I knew then what I knew now, right? Because it would be a lot different. And so hopefully this message gets through to those people who are listening. I don't care where you are. If you're in it with a client, a friend, a spouse, doesn't really matter. It is a business. It needs legal documents. There have to be clear expectations, and you need to hold each other accountable from a professional standpoint. Put the personal aside. Now, sometimes the personal interferes and people get upset and it damages relationships, and that's just part of being human. But to the best of your ability, you got to be able to separate the two and take emotion out of it. I know it's easier said than done, but that's really the key. And when you have a meeting, this is a business meeting. This isn't Michael and Jarrod, best buds growing up, going out to a bar or having fun or playing on the same team. This is Michael and Jarrod, the executives of XYZ Corporation, having a business meeting and getting stuff done. And that's how it has to be looked at.
Yeah, I think that's one of the faults that I had early on, working with some of the partners that I had. I came into these things and, we were buddy, and we never had an agenda.
Yep.
There was no formal, we're going to meet every week. We're going to meet once a month specifically about the agenda that we have, which is the same kind of KPIs we hold for ourselves as we do for our team members. And we didn't do that. It was really kind of off the cuff meetings, with no formal meeting agenda.
Sure.
If we did meet, it was emotionally gauged. And to your point, it's tough, right? It's tough to go into those conversations and be like, all right, well, I know we were buddies and that's how we started this whole thing, but I can speak from experience to your point, like anybody else that's listening to this, you'll lose friends if you don't separate the two. You got to separate the two, and you got to go into those meetings with purpose and intention, because the business is something that you're operating together. And if you go down this path and you get into kind of war zone territory and things do fail, because Jarrod himself has been in situations like this where they start, climbing up, they're rocket shipping up, and then all of a sudden things kind of backslide. Well, people start pointing fingers.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to manage who was responsible for that so fingers don't get pointed. And I think
here's the other thing. Look, it's not going to be perfect. And you don't have to be in the same page all the time. It doesn't always work, right? Like, I want you to challenge me because it's going to make me better. I'm going to challenge you because I want you to be better. We don't always have to align and agree on everything. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to put our opinions or whatever aside and make the best decision for the business and go out and execute it. If we try your idea and I agree to that and we make that agreement and it doesn't work, the last thing you want to hear from me is I told you so.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, because one day you're going to agree with mine and we're going to go do it and it's not going to work. And I don't want to hear that from you either. And it's like, how is this partnership set up? All right, Michael, we'll do it your way. And if we agree to that, I got to give you 110% of my support as a partner. Because if I'm not working towards the best interest of the company or you, right, what kind of partnership do we actually have? So there's going to be times you disagree, and that's okay. The difference between the companies that are successful and the ones that fail are the ability to put the personal things aside and make the best of it and go after it, whatever decision is made, and make those tough calls and be able to compromise and, share ideas and try new things and understand that not everything is going to work. But to make the partnership work, you got to be willing to make some sacrifice. You got to be willing to be humble, and you got to be willing to work on that relationship.
You've seen the industry from a lot of different angles. Like, I mean, talking earlier, right? You're wiping equipment down, you trainer, general manager, growing into your business, operating as a COO of World's Gym. Now you've been running your business for quite some time as a consultant, and the club doctor. What do you believe is the biggest lie? Like if you pick one out, what's the single biggest lie fitness owners are told about success? Like maybe they're following the wrong thing, and I want to kind of like get them to lift the mirror up and look in front of the mirror. What's the single biggest lie you would say owners are told about success?
Build it and they will come.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, yeah, man, I got a great piece of property. My city needs a gym. We need a cool gym. I'm just going to put this up. I don't need to do any marketing where I'm just going to throw equipment in there and people are going to show up. Look, does it happen? Yeah, it does. But it shows up in 6 months or a year or 2 years down the line when the reality check hits and you realize it's a real business. I think, look, the industry is exploding right now. It was exploding in 2019 before, the C word took over. And
it was just a pause period is all it was.
Yeah. And we were, 2020 was shaping up to be like, boom. Obviously that changed and something, but we are back at it right now. And there's gyms and clubs and all these different businesses popping up everywhere. And you see it. It's like, oh, my town needs this, or I hate the gym that I go to. So me and my buddy are going to open a gym and everybody's going to come. I'm going to take everybody from the other gym and stop it. Just stop it right now. Early on, there were a lot of these franchises that basically told people that, right? We're going to sell you this franchise. You're going to take a second mortgage on your house, take all the equity out. You're going to buy this 24-hour franchise. You don't even have to be there. It's a turnkey system. They just swipe in. Bro.
I think you're referencing one of the ads that I saw on an international flight on United.
Bro, yeah, like in Sky Mall magazine or whatever. Like, listen, that's how it was early on for some of these guys. And thousands of people went bankrupt and whatever until, those organizations realized they needed to put more effort into education and training and business mentoring and, hey guys, it does take time to be there. You are going to have to be there. You are going to have to run it and manage it and whatnot. But so I think I would put at the top of the list, the build it and they will come as one of the biggest lies that are told in our industry. And I hate it. Look, don't get me wrong. I make a living off of some of those people that are struggling and need help. I hate to see it happen to them. And I love to be able to help them. But I feel bad that sometimes people are sold that bill of goods, I hate seeing those ads out. Oh, turnkey, make millions of dollars. And I'm just like, man, that's not how it works. Build a gym, they said. Make a lot of money, they said. Yeah, like I would like to hear who they are because we need to have a conversation. It ain't that easy.
What do you think?
Fun, and it can be lucrative. Don't get me wrong, and I love it, but it's not like that.
So, you make a great point. And I think that a lot of times people get into this idea that they're going to all of a sudden have a lot of members. To your point, some of them do have that happen, right? They just kind of luck of the draw.
Yep.
It worked for them. But they don't have systems in place.
That's right.
And then they have churn and they wonder why. So a big part of this is, the customer experience, in my opinion. Right. Sure. What the customers feel or perceive. If you could wave a magic wand, right, and identify what it was that the gym owners needed to fix, what would that be on the customer experience side?
Wave a magic wand on the customer experience side.
What would be the journey, right, if you could fix it that people could implement tomorrow? Like, what's the one thing in that customer journey or customer experience?
Well, they have to understand that everything is an experience for the consumer. It's a much more educated consumer nowadays. The customer experience doesn't start when they come to the gym. They've already had it. They've looked at your social media. They've seen you on Google. They've looked at your website. They've driven by your facility. They know people who go to your facility already. That's 5 things right there that they've experienced before they even walk in your door. So what is it like for that? Then it's when I interact, when I call, when I send in a lead or a form or I ask a question. There's so many things that take place from a customer experience standpoint before they ever even step foot in the building that I don't think a lot of people realize that. They focus a lot of attention, and some are really good at it, right? When you come in and, okay, we're going to focus on cleanliness and this and that. I actually had somebody this morning. I get it. I have a personal trainer. I need the motivation. I go for the motivation a couple times a week, right? Train and accountability. And he was talking to me this morning and he was like, well, if you had to name the top 3 things or whatever it was, what would you talk about? Safety, security, cleanliness, and then customer experience, because I don't compromise on all of those things. Safety and security and cleanliness are all part of customer experience. And he goes, man, I never even thought about safety and security as part of that. Because the first things he rattled off were customer service and cleanliness. And I'm like, okay, but what about safety and security? He goes, I've never even thought about that. And that's really important. And then I went into, well, let's talk about the website. Let's talk about your parking lot, because that's atrocious. The egress, getting in and out of here, turning left, like all those things in this facility that they never really even thought about. Now, this gym in particular is a bodybuilder back alley type of thing. And I wanted to be in that environment for a reason, right?
If you've made it this far into the episode, thank you. I don't take your time or your attention lightly. So if anything that I've shared today has sparked an idea, challenged you in any way, maybe challenged your perspective on things, or just helps you see your business a little differently, I'd love for you to do 2 quick things. First, head over to YouTube, search Sweat Success Podcast, and hit that subscribe button. Next, please go to bizops.com. I've put together a handful of free resources there that you can download to help you grow your business, improve your systems, and create real freedom. They're all available right now. There's no strings attached. I just appreciate you being here. Let's get back to the show.
So I don't have high expectations, but it was a perfect example of what you're talking about. Things that a lot of people just don't give thought to, that is part of that experience. And everything is an experience zone. My desk, my equipment placement and layout. How does the gym flow? What does that look like? How's it aligned? What does the bathroom experience look like? And if you're using locker rooms, what is that? And I just kind of compartmentalize all those different things into experience zones. And it makes a really, really big difference when you do it like that. So
what do you think is the big one that customers look at? I mean, I hear, if you read Google reviews, it'll be things like the conversation maybe they had with somebody, or the equipment being clean, or the bathrooms being clean. Like, you'll see things like that.
Sure.
What do you think is the biggest one? Because I want them to take away from this something that you said, and they go, yeah, I can fix that one thing today.
Here's the thing I think that a lot of people miss. A lot of those complaints that you see about the things that you mentioned, facility standards, customer interaction, whatever, it's because they don't feel valued and appreciated and heard. So you could run maybe the worst operation from a physical plant that there is.
Meaning it could be dirty. It could be,
not to say that that's recommended.
Right.
But if you connect with people and build that community, and they really relate to your desk people, to your trainers, to your this or that, you're not going to see those.
They overlook it. Yeah.
They overlook it because to them, you become family. You become part of it. They're more apt to come and tell you, hey, Michael, I just want to let you know, man, like, that bathroom is disgusting.
Right.
They're not going to put it on Google. And when the gym across the street opens up for $15 or $20 a month cheaper than you, they're not going to go anywhere. They might like the shiny new toy for a little bit, but they're going to miss that personal connection. And I think if clubs and gyms spent more time developing relationships than selling memberships, they'd see a big difference in their numbers.
So that leads me to team building, right? Because I think, we're kind of circling this whole concept and idea around personality traits. And, obviously if a trainer has great personality, perfect, like, they're probably going to do well. They don't necessarily have to be phenomenal trainers from the science side. You're talking about the service side, the way that they connect with people when they're walking in the door. Well, that, to me, that only happens with great leadership. So, and a community within your own business. I mean, you've been in plenty of big box clubs, even sometimes smaller clubs, but if there's enough people in there, they get chatty, they talk to each other, and, quarrels happen. I mean, things happen that shouldn't happen. So how do you control that? How do you prevent things from kind of getting out of hand? And how do you build a really solid team that everybody's on the same page?
ABT. Everybody talks about ABC, always be closing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the one. It's always be training. Always. It's investing in your team. There's so many people that they don't, I'm not saying every conference is worth going to, right? But they put zero money into their budget to provide education and training and workshops for their staff. Like, oh, you're sending your staff to HFA or Athletic Tech or what are they? No, why would I do that? Because, right, they get a new idea. They come home energized. Or you bringing in an outside person like myself or somebody else to do an in-house workshop on customer experience or personal training or leadership even. They need that. And today's generation of employee needs it more than ever. They're so burdened down with technology and these different things that a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, they're not getting the not just the systems and processes, but the opportunity to work on those people skills, and try them out and put them into practice. Like a lot of their relationships are behind a screen or on a phone, right? They can't have a phone call. Always be training and role playing and then doing it on a consistent basis. Not, hey, yeah, we did a training once a year or twice a year, whatever it is, but having that huddle and grabbing your team and one-on-ones and making sure that they have.
How often, like if you were to map that out, how often is that?
Well, I like to, depending on the size of the club, size of the staff, right? That's all going to vary. But for me, if I'm running a club right now, that's, 15, 20, 30,000 square feet, you got a pretty good size staff. So you're going to make sure that you're meeting with your department heads and checking in. I like to have a 10 or 15 minute huddle every week with them. I like to try and have a more sophisticated one-on-one each month with them to make sure that we're on pace on it. I encourage them to do the same thing with their departments. If I'm running the reception desk and I got a staff of 10, I want to make sure that I'm touching base with all 10 of those guys every week. Now, I may also tell them, hey, I want you to go up there and do a rapid fire. And a rapid fire is, all right, Michael, what's the phone number of the club? How do you get here from here? Some of these things you would be surprised. If you ask people the phone number of the club, they don't know it. They don't know it. All right. They don't know how to transfer phone calls sometimes. You know what the best test is? The best is call the gym and ask for yourself. Because if you *67 still works for all of you Gen X people that used to call people and you didn't want the guy or girl to know you were calling from your landline. You can still *67 from your cell phone. It'll come up unavailable or whatever. Call the gym and see how they answer and ask to speak to yourself. Because they're going to think it's you right away. Am I not going to speak to Jarrod, please? And they're going to go, oh, that's not Jarrod, right? And see what they do. They put the phone down. Hey, is Jarrod here? My God. Okay, now I need to know what I got to do. I love secret shopping. I love sending people in. I'll call my friends. I'll tell them, hey, I'll get you a Starbucks gift card. Go do me a favor. Like call or email or do whatever. But I want to have touch points with them every week and every month. And then if I can do, 2 or 3 times a year, something a little bit more, in depth, have an all staff meeting, a Saturday evening workshop, a quarterly event or something like that. Not just like a team building event or whatnot, but an educational session with them based on the needs that I hear of the team. That's what I want to do. And I always want to provide people that opportunity to grow. I also want to provide them a career path. Look, Michael, this is the desk job. This is what it is. We love to hire and promote from within. So if you show great promise and we have an opportunity, we'd love for you to apply for that, whatever next role is. Not always going to be able to fulfill it, depending on what it is, but we want to give you that opportunity. Give them a roadmap. Let them know that they got an opportunity to grow. And when that time comes and just say, listen, they quit and they're going to go to greener pastures. Hey, if you did a great job for us, you're always welcome back here type of thing and let them know. And it's going to happen, right? It's the nature of the business. But I want to know that if they do leave us, which is an eventuality, they left us as a better person than they did when they got there. And to know that I've had an impact on them is a great feeling. And I still have that today. I've got a woman, here's one quick story. I had to fire her. I was a consultant at the time, and I was in charge of hiring and firing for this guy. And this was a grown woman. I had to let her go because she was causing big drama in the staff. Okay. We had a lot of younger people, which you would think would be the cause of it. It really wasn't. It was her. And I had to let her go. And she was not happy with me. We had a long conversation about why I was letting her go. And I told her, listen, I hope that in some way, what the things that we're talking about. And I was very upfront and honest with her. I gave her a lot of great feedback and told her all the things that she did really, really well, and just told her the things that were leading to this. And she kind of knew. About 6 months later, I get this random phone call from her. You remember me? Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah. How can you forget?
Yeah. Thank you. You changed my life when you fired me. What? How did I do that? She said, you were honest with me. She said, you gave me feedback that I needed to hear, that I really didn't want to hear, but you did. And I really took that to heart. And she told me what she was doing. And she told me all these things. And I still connected with her on social media and stuff like that. I see what she's doing with her family. And, to get a call like that, a long time. And then a couple of years later, she reached out because I saw she was doing really good. And she's like, Jarrod, she goes, that conversation still sits in my head. And she goes, she thanked me again years later. So spend the time with your team, good or bad, invest in them, ABT, always be training. You never know. A lot of times we talk about our employees. Oh man, I got this terrible employee. They're a bad employee. Are they really? Or are we a bad employer? Do we set them up to fail from day one? A lot of times it's our fault. We hired them for a reason. We saw something in them that made us want to hire them. Do we let them down instead of them letting us down? That's a huge question. A lot of people got to look themselves in the mirror and ask every single day.
Yeah. I had a buddy who always used to tell me there's no bad coach, or I'm sorry, there's no bad trainer. There's just bad coaches, or there's no bad student. There's just bad teachers.
Yeah.
And I think there's some truth to that. Obviously, it doesn't always work out that way. But to your point on the rapid fire, so, when you're talking about that, we have, for our company, we develop AI agents to help with handling phone calls. And the gyms are now getting to a point where, hey, I don't need to give the phone number. I don't need to learn the address, right? Because I have the tools that will handle these things for me. And I think it's so critical that they still need to know those things, right? Because you're not going to have a robot handling everything at all times. So yeah, that the ABT and the rapid fire, I think's paramount. Beyond that, how do you differentiate yourself, right? Because anybody can have great customer service and they can, have great staff and they can have, do team building. How do you differentiate enough so that way that gym that you mentioned that's across the street that's $15 that somebody wants to go train at because, they got new shiny stuff. How do you really differentiate? Like what is the thing that you're going to identify? Because a lot of people are just copying.
Yeah.
Right? I see it popping up everywhere.
Yeah. So let's get to that. I want to just go back to your AI thing for a second. Well, AI is one of the biggest topics right in the world and really infiltrating the fitness industry in a lot of different ways. And I have a friend that kind of coined this one phrase I'm about to give you, and I'll give him credit. His name is Doug Miller. He's a longtime industry consultant, and he's been around a really, really long time. And we were talking one day, but, we're using artificial intelligence, AI, in a lot of different ways. The fact of the matter is, artificial AI will never be replaced by actual intelligence AI. You still need actual intelligence to run artificial intelligence. And so you can't just think that putting artificial intelligence in is going to solve every single problem. You still need competent, intelligent people at work making those things work for you. So the more you invest in your team, educating them on how to use those tools, how to use the prompts, how to set the thing, the more impact those artificial tools are going to be. So run artificial intelligence, but don't ever count out actual intelligence. And I think that actual intelligence phrase is a really cool one. And I really love that and something to think about. Now, as far as differentiation, that's probably one of my favorite topics. If you've done your homework on me, which it sounds like you have, one of the things I talk about a lot is the Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And that was kind of one of my, a lot of people call it my claim to fame, right? A lot of people got to know me from that. But that is one of my favorite things to talk about. And yes, you're right. There's just right now, it is all copycat. Everybody now is black and red. Everybody now has chevron or hexagon lighting. Everybody now is doing this. It's like, what makes you remarkably different? What makes you stand out from the competition? Now, there's a lot of different things. It could be a staff member. Can it be design? Absolutely. One of the best designers in the world, Cuoco Black. If you know Cuoco, he's great. Like, he designs facilities that will knock your socks off and stand out as remarkably different just from the design standpoint. We do that too, right? There's just a lot of elements that you can put in that people will talk about. Is there equipment that can stand out as remarkably different and differentiate you? Sure there is. But you got to do your homework in your market. And a treadmill is not just a treadmill. It's not just a treadmill. Like, when I put certain pieces of equipment into a gym, there is a specific reason why I'm doing it. Now, sometimes a budget limitation or an owner limitation does not allow me to do what I want to do to help them, which is a whole nother frustrating standpoint. But if I go, hey, I want you to put this one in, here's the reason why. I want to build it as part of the story as to what makes me different. If every gym down the street has the same brand and model, why am I going to put that one in? I got to go find something that's remarkably different or has a story, or so I could put the, hey, Mrs. Rosini, hey, check this treadmill out. Like, this is the only one in the area where you can do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, it still moves. It's still a treadmill. It's still walking nowhere fast, but it has this type of technology. What can you build a story around and sell to somebody? It can be the experience behind it. It can be a program. It can be a service, but you got to do your homework. You know, and right now, I mean, the world is a copycat world. It worked for Michael. It's going to work for Jarrod. It's going to work for Steve and Jody and Beth. No, doesn't work like that, because then that's when it becomes a price war. Well, if they've got all the same stuff, then all it comes down to is, well, who's the cheapest? And once that happens, you lose. Everybody loses in the market. So you got to do your homework. You got to look at it. Quick hit. If you're looking to put a gym in somewhere, I'm going to do my homework on everybody in that area, feasibility study, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to look for weaknesses. And whatever those competitor weaknesses are is what I'm going to make my strength. And that's what I'm going to sell on so that I can expose that. I mean, that's just the art of war, you know, and no offense to anybody that I've done battle with, but we do pretty darn good. So there's something to that method.
You're 100% spot on. A lot of gym owners, they don't take the time because they get into their flow. Their flow is wake up in the morning, go to the gym, do their thing, you know, make sure everybody's hitting their KPIs, then, you know, close the club, go back home, and then they're on repeat. And they don't go out and regularly check their competitors. And they could do that two ways, right? Not only, to your point, like, you know, making the dials from your phone, hitting the club, making sure that people are picking the phone up like they should and having those conversations, like testing your own team and shopping your own team, but shopping others, I think, is a missed opportunity big time.
There is, but I also want to caution against that, because you can go down a rabbit hole and go, well, we need to do that.
Oh, sure.
For sure. Screw that. Let them worry about me. Let them worry about us. Like, after you do your initial homework and do whatever, who cares what they do? Like, let them do your job so well and be so dialed into your business that they worry about you. Yeah, might see their social media, and I don't want to get so caught up and lost in that. I want to focus on me and my business and being the best at what we do, and let them go, man, they really got it together. We got to do what they're doing. I already have that in one market. We've been doing a rebuild, and this other club chain is coming in, and all of a sudden they start putting out all this stuff that they're doing. And I'm like, yeah, they're doing that because they see everything that we're about to do. Right. So you want to copy me? Imitation is the best form of flattery. But, you know, for me, after I do my initial assessment, whatever, it's all right. Let them worry about what I'm doing. I don't care. Be so zoned in. Doesn't mean have closed eyes that you're not aware, but I wouldn't get lost in it, and I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you should get overwhelmed with having to do it on such a regular basis, but your own team members don't even know what your competition's doing. Right.
I tell them, and to your point, I want them to go experience certain things. You know, I want them to take that HIIT class. I want them to go to that studio up the street. I want them to experience certain things so that they understand the difference. And I don't do that so that they can talk negatively. One of the things I always preach, we will never speak negatively about a competitor. Ever. I don't ever want to hear that come out of anybody's mouth. You know, but I want them.
A quick way to lose.
Yeah, it's a quick way to lose. It's like, really? Wow. Okay. But I want them to understand the differences. I want them to understand the experience. I want them to learn and expand their horizons. So again, that's part of the training, right? A lot of like, oh no, go take the cut. Well, you're going to pay my guest fee? No, just do it. It's $10. Well, you know what? To a 17 or 18-year-old kid or a 20-year-old person or a young mom who's trying to make a living, that $10 or $20 to go, dude, reimburse them for that. It's education, right? It's education, you know, help them learn and then take what they learn and use it in your huddle and say, okay, write me a 1-page summary or make some notes and tell me what you learned and what do you think we can do better? You know, how do we improve on that or how do we expose that, you know, or whatever it is. But to me, it falls under training still.
For the owner who's out there listening to this and they're feeling like a little stuck, maybe overwhelmed, or questioning if they should keep going, right? Because I mean, this has happened to a lot of owners. They build it and they think they will come, and then they get to that point. What's the first action step you think they can take in the next 24 hours to kind of lift the mood, get reinvigorated, to maybe do the right things, take action, and you know, drive revenue? Because that's at the end of the day, it's about making sure that your bottom line is healthy, your business is healthy.
Pick up the phone or go online and give me a call. But selfishly, give me a call. But
yeah,
the big phrase is this: don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't let your ego get in the way of your success.
Don't you think it can be a bit challenging for maybe the owner who's at that breaking point and they're going, man, I have no money.
Yep.
My revenue's in the tank. I'm negative every month. I'm behind on my rent. How are they going to get help?
Well, first of all, I offer a complimentary consultation to everybody. So 30 or 60 minutes, you want to rap, you want to pour your heart out, you want to scream, yell, cry, kick, throw rocks, let's do it. You need somebody to listen to. So part of my job is being a therapist. But I'm also going to tell you real talk, like, yeah, close your doors, or yeah, we can help. And we're going to work through all the crap, and we're going to figure out what you want to do. And sometimes it takes that reality check, right? Mm-hmm. It does take a tough reality check. And I have no problem giving it to people. I can certainly empathize. I know what it's like to not be able to make payroll. I know what it's like to, have to decide, do you pay the electric bill or take money out to pay your own mortgage and feed your family? Like, I get it, man. Like, I get it. And I think that's one of the things that people appreciate about my style is I do understand. I'm not in every situation that people have been in, but I've been in a lot of them and I've been around a lot of them. So I do get it. Pick up the phone. A conversation doesn't hurt. It will always help. And it doesn't cost you anything except a little bit of time. And if you can't afford, the time, the short little bit of time, 30 minutes or an hour takes out of your week to look at your future, you got more problems than you think. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to get somebody's outside opinion. Yes, we know you're an expert. Yes, we know you've been doing it a long time. Yes, I know you've been in the gym business longer than I've been alive. Bro, don't let your pride get in the way of making a good decision. Pick up the phone, dial a form, get a free consult, whether it's with me, another consultant, an attorney, a business mentor. Do it. It'll be the best thing you ever did for yourself. Because sometimes you just need a fresh set of eyes and a new set of ears to figure something out. And it could be something as simple as changing one thing in your business that changes everything for you.
That's good, Jarrod. That's good. So everyone, thanks for listening, Jarrod. Really appreciate the talk, man. All your information will be in the show notes. So if anyone is looking to talk to Jarrod, get in touch with them, and you want to reach out to him, maybe you're that person who's struggling a bit. You're kind of you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel and you're looking for, a lifesaver. Jarrod will take your call. He'll help you out. And for anybody else, if there's other questions that you have, and maybe you're not looking for a call, you just want a quick answer on something, or just a, quick perspective or vantage point from something that you're trying to do, shoot him a note. And I know that he'll be happy to talk. He's been around this industry for a long time. He's helped a lot of gyms. And Jarrod, anything else you want to say?
No, man, just thank you very much for the opportunity to be on the podcast here. And yeah, I mean, look, this is a great industry. To me, I tell people it's the greatest industry in the world. But it doesn't mean that it's not a business, and it doesn't mean that we don't need help from time to time. So reach out. Let's have a conversation. And you know what? For all of you out there who are changing people's lives and part of this great industry, keep up the great work. And we'll continue to grow this thing together. So thank you, Michael. I really appreciate it.
Likewise, Jarrod. Everyone else, if this was good for you and you feel like somebody else might need it, I always say, please share it. And I'll see you guys on the flip side.